I moved into the neighborhood on a quiet Thursday afternoon, the kind of place where every lawn looked freshly cut, every driveway looked freshly washed, and every porch had one of those welcome mats that nobody ever really meant. My real estate agent told me I'd love it here. Low crime, friendly neighbors, peaceful nights. And for the most part, he was right. But there was one thing he didn't mention: the house across the street. It sat directly opposite mine. 2 stories, faded blue paint, a front porch that sagged just slightly. Not ruined, not abandoned, just tired. Like it had been waiting too long for someone to come home. When I asked the agent who lived there, he said the house had been vacant for 8 years. No new buyers, no tenants, no maintenance except the bare minimum the city required. So when I brought my last box inside that night, when I turned off the porch light, and when I looked back through my living room window, I shouldn't have seen a figure standing in the upstairs window of that vacant house. No light behind them, no movement, just a clear human silhouette in the blue-black darkness, angled directly toward my home, like they'd been waiting for me to notice them. I blinked. The silhouette didn't move. I stepped closer to the window, and just as I did, the figure stepped backward, melting into the dark hallway behind them. The house went still again, and the street fell dead silent. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured that silhouette in the upstairs window, unmoving, watching. By morning, I had almost convinced myself it was a trick of the shadows, or just my imagination filling in the dark. But then something happened that made it impossible to ignore. Around 9 a.m., while I was drinking coffee on my porch, the old man next door wandered over. He had that retired neighbor look, plaid shirt, white sneakers, the kind of guy who knows everyone's business without trying. He introduced himself as Mr. Hollis. We made small talk, weather, the move, how quiet the neighborhood usually is, and then he pointed his thumb over his shoulder toward the house across the street. "Don't worry about that place," he said with a chuckle. "Nobody's lived there in years." The words hit harder than they should have. I tried to play it cool, but curiosity got the better of me. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I thought I saw someone there last night." Mr. Hollis's smile froze. Not faded, froze. Like I had said something I wasn't supposed to say. He stared at me for a few seconds, long enough to make the moment uncomfortable. Then he cleared his throat. "You didn't," he said quietly. "Trust me, no one lives there." It wasn't the words that bothered me. It was how he said them. Firm, immediate, almost rehearsed. He turned to leave but stopped halfway down my steps. "Just," he added without looking back, "if you think you see something in that house, close your blinds and leave it alone." Then he walked away. No explanation, no joke to soften it, just that warning, that very specific warning. And for the rest of the day, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't meant to reassure me. It was meant to protect me. That night, I tried to follow Mr. Hollis's advice. I kept my blinds closed. I kept the TV on for background noise. I tried not to look across the street, not even once. But avoidance only works until something forces you to pay attention. It started around 1:17 a.m., a soft, rhythmic tapping, not outside, not upstairs, inside my walls. At first, I thought it was pipes cooling, or maybe a raccoon on the siding. But the taps were too steady, too deliberate. Tap, 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 a pause, tap, tap, like someone trying to send a message. I turned down the TV and listened harder, feeling the hairs on my arms stand up. The sound traveled, moving from the far corner of the living room, sliding along the wall, inching closer to where I sat. One deliberate tap after another. I tried to rationalize it. New house settling, wind pressure, anything. But then, right behind me, inches from my back, a slow dragging sound scraped down the inside of the wall. Not random. Not mechanical, like fingernails. I jumped up so fast the remote flew from my hand. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear myself think. The dragging stopped immediately. Silence. Then from the darkness of the front hallway, my doorbell rang. Just one sharp chime. At nearly 1:30 a.m. I froze. Who the hell knocks at that hour? I crept to the front window, hesitating before lifting the corner of the blind just enough to peek. But no one was there. not on the porch, not on the street, nothing. Except across the street, the abandoned house's upstairs window glowed faintly, and in that pale outline, the silhouette was back. But this time, it wasn't still. It slowly lifted an arm and pointed straight at my house. A chill ran down my spine so cold it felt like ice water. That was the moment I realized something. Ignoring the house wasn't going to make it go away. It knew I was here, and it wanted me to know it was here too. I didn't sleep after that. I sat on the couch with every light in the living room on, waiting for sunrise like a terrified kid at a sleepover. Around 2:40 a.m., the tapping started again, but this time it was different. It wasn't random or rhythmic. It was 3 knocks, deep, solid, too loud to be inside the walls, too close to be from the porch. Knock, knock, knock. The sound came from somewhere near the kitchen. I held my breath, listening hard, trying to pinpoint it. Then it came again, but now from the hallway, same pattern. Knock, 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 as if something was moving around inside the house, testing the walls, looking for a way through. My pulse was thumping in my ears. Every instinct told me to get out, but something else, curiosity, fear, maybe stubbornness, kept me frozen. After a full minute of silence, I forced myself to walk toward the hallway. Each step felt heavier than the last. I reached the light switch. The hallway light flicked on and instantly flicked back off. Not a bulb failing, not a breaker tripping, like someone had turned it off from the other end of the hallway. I stepped back, my throat tightening. Then I heard it, a whisper, a low, breathy sound slipping out from the darkness where the hallway stretched toward the bedrooms. My name. It said my name. Muffled, warped, but unmistakable. Repeating softly like someone was standing just out of sight, gently calling me forward. I backed away until I hit the living room wall. And then, as if responding to my fear, a slow, deliberate creak echoed from the abandoned house across the street. The upstairs window, the one where the silhouette stood earlier, it was open now, just a few inches, enough for someone or something to watch me, enough for something to slip out. A cold realization hit me. It wasn't just a haunted house across the road. It was trying to get in, and it was getting closer. I don't know how long stared at that slightly open window across the street. It felt like minutes, but it was probably seconds. Seconds where my brain tried to convince me this was all a coincidence, a trick of the dark, a tired imagination. But then something happened that wiped those excuses away. The window moved. Not a gust of wind, not wood settling. It slid open farther, inch by inch, steady, controlled, like someone was gently pushing it from the inside. My heart punched my ribs. I stepped back from my own window instinctively, staying low so I couldn't be seen. The neighborhood was dead quiet. Not a car, not a tom, not even the usual hum of distant traffic, just silence. And that window. I crouched behind the arm of my couch, watching the house across the street like it was alive. Then I noticed something else. The street lamp, the one that always flickered but never fully went out. Tonight it was pulsing, dim, bright, dim, bright. Almost like it was signaling. I didn't know who it was signaling to or for. Then the soft tapping started again, except this time it came from behind me. Inside the living room, I turned slowly, every muscle trembling. The tapping wasn't coming from the walls or the hallway. It was coming from the front window. The one I had just backed away from. The one facing the abandoned house. Something was tapping on the glass from outside. Gentle, patient, almost polite. Tap, tap, tap. I crawled closer, staying out of view, and lifted my eyes just enough to peek over the windowsill. There was nothing there. No shape, no shadow, no silhouette. Just my quiet street, and the open window across the road, yawning like a black mouth. Another tap hit the glass, harder, still nothing there. But I realized something terrifying. The tapping wasn't coming from the outside. It was coming from the inside of the glass. Something was already in the house, and it was letting me know it wasn't hiding anymore. I didn't want to go inside my house that night. Not after what I'd seen in Mason's window. Not after hearing that whispery voice repeat my name in the dark. But every light on my street had gone out except mine. Like my home was the only thing the night hadn't swallowed yet. I stepped onto my porch, unlocked the door, and pushed it open slowly. My house was pitch black, not lights off black, wrong black, like the shadows had weight to them. I flicked the switch. Nothing. My power was out too. I pulled out my phone and let its flashlight cut through the darkness. Immediately, I knew something was off. My living room wasn't how I left it. The throw pillows were on the floor. The curtain on the left window was half torn down. My front rug had a long drag mark across it, like something had been pulled through. I whispered to myself, "Is someone in here?" A soft creak sounded from the hallway. I froze. Another creak, slow, rhythmic, like someone shifting their weight, deliberately, to let me know they were there. I raised my phone's light and took one step toward the hallway. Then I heard it. A breath, not mine. A long exhale coming from just beyond the darkness. My tongue felt glued to the roof of my mouth. My heartbeat thumped in my ears so loudly I thought it might give me away. Then, my phone vibrated, a text message. From Mason. I looked down, confused. It read, "Don't go in. Whatever you saw in my window, it wasn't in my house. It was looking into yours." Before I could process it, something moved at the end of the hallway. A tall, thin silhouette stepped into view. Not fully, just enough for me to see its height. And its long arms sliding along the wall as if feeling its way toward me. My phone dimmed to low battery. The hallway grew darker, and I realized it wasn't coming toward me. It was waiting for me to come to it. Then it whispered, my name, slow, exact, and unmistakably familiar. Like it had learned it from someone who lived very, very close. I swallowed hard, back toward the front door, and the thing took one step forward, a deliberate step, almost excited. I turned for the door, but the second I touched the handle, it slammed shut like someone pushed it from the outside. Hard. The whole frame rattled. I staggered back and my dying phone's flashlight wobbled across the hallway, just in time to catch the tall silhouette lowering its head, almost like it was studying me. It whispered my name again. Only this time, it said it in Mason's voice. Perfectly. Every syllable. Same tone, same lazy drawl he used when he joked around with me in the driveway. But Mason wasn't home. And whatever was in my hallway wasn't joking. My throat tightened as the thing tilted its head. Too far, farther than any human could. The bones didn't crack. They slid, like joints rearranging. My phone buzzed again. Another text. I didn't want to look, but I did. From Mason. It knows you came to my house earlier. It watches through windows. It copies voices. Don't talk back. My breath hitched. I looked up. The silhouette had moved closer. Quietly. Now only a few feet into the hallway, half lit by the faint spill of my phone. It had no face. Just a smooth, pale surface that caught the light like wet ceramic. But the sound that came from it, "Hey man, you good?" Mason's voice again. Except wrong, too clear, too cheerful, too practiced, like it had been rehearsing. I backed toward the living room, keeping my eyes locked on it. The creature took another step, its long fingers scraping lightly along the wall. Then, my phone screen flickered and popped to 1%. The flashlight dimmed so low I could barely see its shape. I whispered out of panic more than logic, "Stay back." The creature stopped. Then slowly, Tom, a smile pressed across its smooth, blank face, like something pushing out from underneath the skin. And it answered, in my voice, perfect, soft, mocking. "Stay back." My knees almost gave out. My voice echoed again, crawling down the hallway. "Stay back! Stay back! Stay back!" Not in unison, each time slightly off, like it was replaying me to see which version sounded most human. Phone, 1%. Door, jammed shut. Hallway thing, learning me better. And then, the creature lifted one hand and pointed. Not at me, at the basement door behind me, and in my voice it whispered, "Go downstairs." I froze, my back pressed against the basement door, and the wood felt cold, too cold, like the house itself was holding its breath. The thing in the hallway didn't move. It just pointed at the door behind me, waiting, expecting. I swallowed hard. No, I whispered. The creature copied me instantly, my voice layered with a strange echo beneath it. No, But it didn't sound like a refusal. It sounded like a command. My phone buzzed in my hand again, just long enough for the screen to flash. Another message from Mason. If it corners you, go to the basement. Trust me, there's something down there it won't follow. My chest tightened. Something it won't follow. I didn't like the sound of that. But I liked the thing in my hallway even less. The creature took one slow step toward me. I could hear it breathing now, a soft, shaking inhale, like someone pretending to breathe without really knowing how. My phone flickered again. Battery, 1%, red icon barely clinging. I didn't have time to think. The creature leaned forward, stretching its neck just a little too long. Its blank face twitched, reshaping beneath the skin like something crawling underneath. Then, in my neighbor Mason's voice, the real voice this time, it whispered, "Go." That was it. I twisted the basement knob and slipped inside, slamming the door behind me. Instant darkness. I felt along the wall, desperate for the light switch. But as my fingers brushed the plastic switch plate, something clicked above me. Not the switch, not the house settling. It was the sound of the creature's fingernail tapping on the other side of the door. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, rhythmic, patient. My heartbeat hammered against my ribs as I backed down the first step. Then the second, the tapping stopped. Silence. I waited for the creature to try the door handle, but it never did. It just stood there. Then through the wood, in that exact too perfect mimic of my voice, it whispered, "Don't look behind you." My blood went cold because the basement was pitch black, and I wasn't alone. Someone, or something, was breathing behind me. I froze on the basement steps. That breath behind me wasn't mine. It was low, uneven, like someone trying to stay quiet but failing. A soft inhale, a rattled exhale. My legs locked in place. I didn't dare turn around. I didn't even blink. Above me, the creature in the hallway whispered through the door again. My own voice, barely audible. "Don't look." The thing behind me took a slow step forward. The wooden step creaked under its weight. Not human light, not child light. This was heavy. My throat tightened, and I whispered into the dark, "Mason, what did you put down here?" But there was no answer. I felt the air shift behind me, warm breath brushing the back of my neck. Too close. Way too close. I gripped my phone, 1% battery glowing weakly, and lifted the screen just enough to cast a faint light. Not turning around, just trying to see something. The glow lit the concrete wall, the wooden steps, the dust floating in the air. But not the thing breathing behind me. It stayed in the dark, still invisible, still waiting. The creature upstairs began tapping the door again. Tap, 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 slow. Like it was counting. Like it knew exactly what was happening down here. My phone buzzed. One last message from Mason before the screen dimmed. "Whatever you do, don't turn around until you reach the bottom." The basement seemed endless. A black pit below me. Behind me, the breath grew louder, wetter, closer. I forced myself to move. One step down, then another, then another. The breathing followed, matching every step. I didn't run. I couldn't. My legs felt like they were made of concrete. As I reached the last step, my phone finally died, screen going black. And in that absolute darkness, the breathing behind me suddenly stopped. Then a voice, raspy, broken, not mimicked, whispered directly into my ear. "Welcome home." I hit the basement floor. Concrete cold against my knees. Phone dead. Stairs behind me swallowed in darkness. I stayed frozen, every muscle trembling, every breath loud in my own ears. The thing behind me didn't move, didn't make a sound, but I felt it. The presence, heavy, patient, waiting for me to panic. Then I noticed it, a small crack of light coming from the far corner of the basement. Faint, soft, almost inviting. I crept toward it, and that's when I saw it. A door I didn't know existed, small, wooden, almost hidden behind old shelving. The crack of light spilled from underneath. I reached for the handle. Cold metal. Solid. A whisper drifted from the door. Familiar. Warm. Mason's voice. Go in. I hesitated, hard hammering, every instinct screaming to turn back. Then the front door lock upstairs clicked. Heavy footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming closer. I had no choice. I pushed the small door open. Inside, the faint glow revealed nothing. Just an empty crawl space, dusty and silent. And then the light above flickered. The front steps, my porch, creaked. I knew it had entered. I scrambled into the crawl space, knees scraping concrete, heart deafening in my ears. And in that instant, I heard it, a voice from upstairs. Not Mason's, not mine. Something colder, deeper, grinning. Found you. The crawl space collapsed around me. Dust in my mouth, darkness all around, and the last thing I heard before everything went quiet was my own voice screaming from the street, calling to the neighbors, asking for help. The next morning, they found my house empty. Windows closed, front door locked, no trace of me. And across the street, the blue house still stood, quiet, waiting. And in the upstairs window, a silhouette was watching. If this story kept you watching, there's another real horror waiting for you. And click on the screen, and don't watch it alone.